We are now going to talk about the animal cell. It's called Djurcell in Swedish. We'll start by talking about the animal cell's tasks. The job of the animal cell is to make sure everything needed for the body to function gets done. Each cell is like a small machine working to keep you healthy. The animal cell has many important tasks to keep the body in balance and working as it should. Think of each cell as a little superhero with unique powers. Every cell has its own specialty, but they constantly cooperate to keep you healthy and strong. Without these tiny superheroes, the body couldn't function at all. For example, when you eat, the cells convert the food into energy your body needs to move, think, and grow. When you're injured, like when you get a cut, the cells build new material and repair the damage, just like tiny construction workers. They also help transport important substances to where they're needed most and divide when the body needs more cells. For example, when you grow or when something must heal. And not to forget, some cells act as the body's defense soldiers, ready to fight invaders like bacteria and viruses to keep you healthy. So each cell plays a vital role in keeping you well and making sure your body works as it should, every day. An animal cell is built up of several different parts, organelles, each with its own important job. It's called organeller in Swedish. Think of the cell as a small community where each part does a job. We will now go through all the parts. You can write down the names in Swedish as well. That can be useful to know. Let's start with the nucleus. It's called Cellkärna in Swedish. The nucleus is like the brain of the cell, the part that controls and decides what will happen. Inside the nucleus is our DNA, which is like a blueprint or set of instructions for how the cell should function and what it should do. This is where all the orders come from, so the cell knows when to divide, repair itself, or create new substances. Now let's talk about the cell membrane. It's called cell membrane in Swedish. The cell membrane works like the cell's protective shell. It's like a wall surrounding the cell that keeps unnecessary or harmful things out, while letting in important substances the cell needs to survive. The cell membrane also makes sure waste and other unwanted substances can leave the cell. It is the cell's outer defense and gatekeeper. Now we'll talk about the cellplasma, also called the cytoplasma. It's called cellplasma in Swedish. The cellplasma is a jelly-like fluid that fills the cell and holds all the organelles in place. This is where much of the cell's work happens. All the parts float around here. In the cellplasma, different substances are transported around the cell, so everything can function as it should. Think of the cellplasma as a big workplace where all parts of the cell can carry out their tasks. The next part is the mitochondria, often called the cell's power plants. It's called Mitokondrier in Swedish. This is where the cell produces its energy. The mitochondria take in oxygen and nutrients and convert them into energy the cell uses to drive all its processes, such as moving, dividing, and repairing itself. Without the mitochondria, the cell would have no energy, and without energy, no part of the body can function. The mitochondria are the cell's power plants. Now let's look at the ribosomes, often called the cell's factories. It's called ribosomer in Swedish. Ribosomes are small structures where proteins are made. Proteins are important building blocks needed for the body to grow, repair itself, and function properly. Ribosomes follow instructions from the DNA in the nucleus and assemble amino acids in the right order to create these proteins. Think of ribosomes as tiny factories working around the clock to produce everything the cell and body need. Last but not least, we have the Golgi apparatus, which works like the cell's post office. It's called Golgiapparaten in Swedish. When the proteins have been made by the ribosomes, they are sent to the Golgi apparatus to be sorted, packaged, and sent on to the right place in or outside the cell. The Golgi apparatus ensures all deliveries reach the correct address so the body can use the substances that have been produced in the right way. It's like a carefully organized post office that makes sure everything ends up where it should, on time. The next part we'll look at is the endoplasmic reticulum, often shortened to ER. The endoplasmic reticulum is like a large transport system inside the cell, and it comes in two varieties, smooth and rough. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on it and helps make and transport proteins. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum, on the other hand, has no ribosomes and works to make fats and other important substances, as well as to break down toxins. Think of it as the cell's highways, where materials are quickly and efficiently transported to where they are needed. Last but not least, we have the lysosomes, which function as the cell's waste stations. It's called lysosomer in Swedish. Lysosomes contain enzymes that break down waste, old cell components, and even intruders like bacteria. They make sure the cell is kept clean and that nothing unnecessary or harmful is left behind. Think of lysosomes as small sanitation workers that keep the cell in top shape by taking care of all the trash and waste. Now we're going to talk about similarities and differences between animal cells and plant cells. If you want to see the differences, you can pause the video. Before we go into the differences between animal and plant cells, let's first talk about their similarities. Both animal and plant cells share many important components and functions that make them fundamental building blocks of life. First, both animal and plant cells have a cell membrane that surrounds and protects the cell. The cell membrane regulates what enters and leaves the cell, which is crucial for maintaining the right balance of substances inside the cell. Another similarity is that both animal and plant cells have a nucleus that contains the cell's DNA. The nucleus functions as the control center and directs all processes in the cell by sending out instructions based on genetic information. In addition, both animal and plant cells have mitochondria, the small power plants that produce energy for the cell's activities. Whether it's an animal cell or a plant cell, the mitochondria are responsible for converting nutrients into usable energy. Both animal and plant cells also have ribosomes, where proteins are made, and an endoplasmic reticulum which transports these proteins and other substances through the cell. The Golgi apparatus, which sorts and packages proteins, is also found in both cell types. With these similarities in mind, we can now focus on the important differences that distinguish animal cells from plant cells. Now that we've gone through the similarities between animal and plant cells, let's look at some key differences that make them function in different ways. First, there is the cell wall. The plant cell has an extra rigid wall outside the cell membrane called the cell wall. This wall gives the plant cell a strong, firm structure, which helps plants stand upright and protects them from damage. Animal cells do not have a cell wall, only a flexible cell membrane, which makes them more shapeable. Next, there are the chloroplasts. The plant cell has chloroplasts that contain chlorophyll, allowing plants to convert sunlight into energy through photosynthesis. This process is unique to plants, which is why animal cells do not have chloroplasts. Another difference is the vacuole. The plant cell has a large, fluid-filled vacuole that helps keep the cell turgid and supports the plant. Animal cells have small vacuoles, but they are not as large or as important as in plant cells. Lastly, there is the shape. The plant cell is usually square or rectangular, giving it a stable, clearly defined structure. The animal cell, on the other hand, is usually round or irregular in shape, which makes it more flexible and adaptable. These differences help plant and animal cells perform their specific roles in nature, allowing both plants and animals to survive and thrive in their own ways. Now that we're nearing the end of the video, I'll summarize key points you should know after watching. You should know the cell's function and the cell's parts, what they are called, and what they do. You can write down the names both in Swedish and in your own language. You should also know the important differences between an animal cell and a plant cell. You can also check the key concepts in the video description. If you feel unsure about any of this, feel free to re-watch the video. Thanks for watching. If you want to see the next video, you can click up here.